The big hand!
As an adult, there isn't much that scares me. I've been on the internet since I was 8 years old, and it's fair to say that I've seen the worst of the worst. From the creepy atmosphere of the dark web, to the much scarier things on the clear web. I've seen it all. However, as a child there is one thing that scared the hell out of me, and it was one particular episode of SpongeBob.
Are you open?
Read the sign.
Now, it may seem silly that an episode of SpongeBob scared me more than any horror movie ever has. But believe me when I say that this episode was so scary that I had to leave the room. I was too scared to even turn off the TV. I just walked out hoping no demon was following me. So to tell you exactly why this episode was so scary, let me take you back to that day when I came home from school, turned on the TV, and settled in for my daily episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. The episode opens with Mr. Krabs assigning SpongeBob and Squidward to work the night shift at the Krusty Krab.
If we stayed open later, you'd give us your money?
Sure!
As far as I can tell, this is the first time that the characters have to work the night shift. Squidward is reluctant, but he doesn't have a choice. SpongeBob, on the other hand, is excited. As the sun starts to set, tensions rise, and it becomes clear that this isn't a regular episode of the show. This was an early 2000s horror movie through and through. Squidward tries to get some rest while on duty, but SpongeBob is too energetic and keeps waking him up. In order to scare SpongeBob, who is the embodiment of a child in his early teens, Squidward starts to tell him the story of the hash-slinging slasher.
The slash-bringing hasher?
The hash-slinging slasher.
This is the story of a ghostly figure that supposedly haunts the Krusty Krab at night. He was a former fry cook, doing the exact job that SpongeBob is doing now. However, he was murdered by a rival restaurateur. The story is accompanied by an equally creepy flashback, and the tension quickly builds. I can still feel the chills that was running through the back of my neck that I felt when I first watched this episode. Let me clarify that I was not a weak child. By the point in my life that I had first watched this episode, I had already watched the first few Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I had watched The Messengers, and even the Amityville horror movie. The good one, not all the others. By the way, did you know that there are over 28 Amityville horror movies? Anyway, although SpongeBob is skeptical at first, as the night goes on, he starts to believe the story more and more. This is when strange events start to happen. They hear disembodied footsteps, doors creaking, and the sound of sizzling food. This would be normal on any other day, but this is the night shift, and there's no one else around but them. This is about the point where I bailed. I left the room and went outside into the sunlight to touch some grass.
Oh boy, 3 a.m.
Today, I'm finally watching the rest. Squidward eventually becomes paranoid and starts to believe his own story, while SpongeBob tries to calm him down. As the night starts to end, they see a ghostly figure lurking in the shadows and become convinced that it's the hash-slinging slasher.
The sash-ringing! The flash-singing! The bash-pinging!
The hash-slinging slasher!
They run for their lives. Unfortunately, it's just Mr. Krabs dressed in a costume, trying to scare them into working harder. The episode ends with SpongeBob and Squidward laughing about their experiences, while the camera pans out to reveal that it's still night outside. Looking back, this episode is not as bad as it was when I was a child, and has a fairly happy, if not vague, ending. However, if this was a perfect episode, it would have ended with Squidward getting murdered and SpongeBob being left as the final girl. Of course they couldn't do this. After all, it is a kids show. But they were certainly okay with scaring the life out of us. Overall, the hash-slinging slasher pushed the bounds of what a children's show could be. However, a lot of shows were doing that in the early 2000s. The only regret I have is that they didn't make more episodes as scary as this one. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like it, as it does help the channel. And subscribe, because I have a whole lot more videos coming out in December.